Our story begins in the great kingdom of Brandy, where the legends of the world gathered together to witness the new rescue mission that had been assigned to one of them. But unlike everyone's expectations, the mission was to save a world ranked S. This rank was the highest of all, and almost impossible to succeed in. The one responsible for this mission was the legend of healing, Rista. Everyone stood up to honor her, and congratulated her for receiving such a great mission. She thanked them for their trust and said with confidence, "Do not worry, I will save this world from destruction." The hall was filled with joy and applause, impressed by her courage and words. But when Rista returned home, her body was shaking with fear. She knew that saving an S-rank world was nearly impossible. Even legends who had saved hundreds of worlds would tremble when hearing about a world of a lower rank. So how could she, who had only saved 5 worlds, face this? She felt she was trapped in a mission that she might never succeed in. Still, she had no choice. She opened the list of candidates who could be summoned from the safe worlds to choose a hero to stand by her side. Yet she was disappointed. Every name looked the same. No one seemed special. Then suddenly, a paper fell on her head. She bent down to pick it up, at first very annoyed, but the moment she read it, her eyes widened. It contained information about a man whose stats were extremely high and whose skills were terrifying in number. She smiled and said, "This is the one I want." Without a second thought, she prepared the magic circle and summoned him. Suddenly, a tall young man with a strong and handsome appearance appeared in front of her. She stepped closer and welcomed him. "Welcome, Hero Seiya. I am Rista, the legend of healing. I have brought you here to be the hero who can save this world." But Seiya looked at her coldly and said, "Save a world? I don't even know you." Rista was shocked, but thought maybe he was just confused by the situation. So she tried to explain calmly, "There is a world in danger. We need someone strong like you to protect it. As the legend of healing, I ask for your help." Yet he answered with sarcasm, "And why don't you go alone? Why should I care?" She told him that legends could not enter the world directly and needed a hero to accompany them. He looked at her with even colder eyes and said, "So your presence is useless. I will be the one carrying all the burden." Her anger rose, so she wanted to impress him. She told him, "Try saying skill window and you will see something amazing." He spoke the words, and suddenly, a magical window appeared in front of him showing his attributes. The moment he saw it, everything changed. After refusing the mission completely, he now decided to accept it, even with all its danger. Rista was relieved, thanked him, and showed him his incredible stats, saying, "You are stronger than any hero before you. With this power, you can finish the mission easily." But Seiya smiled slightly and asked, "What will happen if I die inside this world?" She answered, "Nothing will happen. You will simply return to your own world," as if everything was only a dream. Then she began opening the gate to show him the world he must save. But suddenly, he stopped her and said, "Where do you think I am going now? Are you crazy? I am not stepping into any world." Rista shouted, "Didn't you just say you accept the mission?" He replied, "Yes, I accepted, but on one condition." Then he removed his shirt and began doing push-ups on the floor. Rista screamed with anger, "What are you doing, you fool? I am talking about saving the world, and you are exercising like a bodybuilder." Then she remembered something important from his file. He was known for extreme caution. Now she understood. He was training because he trusted nothing. After that, Rista went to her friend Arya, the legend of wisdom. She told her she could not understand her new hero. Most Japanese heroes she summoned before accepted the idea of saving the world easily, since they were used to such stories. But Seiya was different. His caution was almost like a disease. Arya replied, "This is natural. You are facing an S-rank world. Instead of disturbing him, give him the comfort he needs so he can finish his mission." Rista agreed and returned to Seiya, bringing him food and everything to make him comfortable. But Seiya looked at her seriously and said, "Taste the food first. Maybe you poisoned it." Rista exploded in anger and said, "There is nothing like that." Then she ate from the food in front of him to prove it. But he replied coldly, "It could be slow poison. I will wait and see." She was about to lose her mind. She could not understand why he doubted everything. She told him, "Training alone will never be enough to face the demon lord." To prove her point, she left him and said, "Do whatever you want for a few days. When you are ready, use this bell to call me." She left, thinking he would get bored in 2 or 3 days. But a whole week passed, and he never called her. Finally, one day she heard the sound of the bell. She rushed to him, and what she saw stunned her. His body had changed completely, stronger, sharper, more powerful. She asked in shock, "How did you raise your power like this?" He gave no answer. She checked his stats and saw that he had reached level 15. She was speechless. How can just push-ups raise you this much? Something is not normal. But he insisted nothing strange happened, and even showed her his other abilities, which were just as terrifying. Yet despite all this, he still said he needed more training. Rista shouted, "Do you think you will stay locked in this room forever?" Then she opened the portal and said, "Let's go to the world you must save." He smiled and said, "Fine. Now I am completely ready." Rista froze. "Are you insane?" But she had no choice. She followed him, and together they stepped into that world. After that, the two of them arrived at the first area of the second world, a land called Edo. It was a vast green field, calm and peaceful, as if nothing dangerous existed there. They headed straight to the city to buy equipment and search for monsters for Seiya to fight so he could raise his level. On the way, they met a villager who greeted them with a smile. Rista replied happily, but Seiya looked at her and said coldly, "What are you doing? Will you greet every person you meet?" She laughed and said, "What's the problem? He looks harmless." But Seiya answered seriously, "That might not be his real form. He could be a monster in disguise." Rista grew angry and said, "Stop this nonsense. No one here is insane but you." They continued to the weapon shop. Rista gave Seiya the money and told him to buy 1 sword and 1 shield. But Seiya shocked her. He asked for 3 shields and 50 pieces of every item in the store. She yelled, "Are you insane? 3 shields? Why?" He answered calmly, "I must prepare. What if my enemy breaks my shields? I need many backups." Furious, she grabbed the money and said, "Enough. I will choose for you." She bought him 1 strong sword and a powerful shield. Now he looked impressive, like a true warrior. Rista said proudly, "You are ready. Let's hunt monsters." But Seiya refused. "Not yet. We are not ready for the forest monsters." She insisted, "The monsters here are weak. I will show you myself." They entered the forest, and a small slime appeared. Rista smiled. "See? This thing is so weak. 1 slap and it will die." But Seiya stood still, watching the slime carefully. She said, "It's easy, just finish it." Suddenly Seiya rushed forward and used atomic splitter, blasting the slime into tiny fragments. Rista shouted, "That was unnecessary. It was weak." But Seiya did not stop. He cast hellfire on the remains, burning it until nothing was left. She screamed, "Why are you doing this? It's already dead." He answered coldly, "I must always strike a final blow to confirm." Never trust appearances. He kept attacking until the forest was nearly destroyed. Rista shouted, "You saw its stats yourself. It was weak." Seiya replied, "Even if I see numbers, I cannot trust them. Stats may lie. I must stay cautious." She sighed. "Fine, let's continue." But suddenly, a terrifying demonic aura froze them both. From the shadows appeared a powerful woman with a cruel smile. "Greetings, hero," she said. "Allow me to introduce myself. I am one of the 4 generals of the Demon Lord, Catastrophe of Chaos. Since you have seen me, this will be your last day alive." Rista trembled. "Impossible. How can one of the 4 catastrophes appear so early and in a safe zone?" The demoness laughed. "The Demon Lord knew a hero would come. He sent me here to wait and kill you the moment you arrived." Rista clenched her fists in anger. "If we had entered earlier, your journey would have ended before it began." The demoness unsheathed her sword. When Rista checked her stats, her heart froze. Level 66. Nearly 1,000 in all attributes. Unbeatable. She turned to Seiya. "What do we do?" But he was already sprinting away at full speed. Rista screamed, "Oh my god! Even running away looks heroic with you." As they fled, Seiya said, "We must retreat at once." Rista opened a portal in panic, but the demoness was close and about to strike. Seiya cast hellfire to push her back, and they barely escaped. The demoness laughed. "Run, little hero. In 2 days, you will crawl back to me like a dog." They returned to Brandia Kingdom. Seiya immediately ordered Rista to leave him alone so he could train in peace. 2 full days passed, and Rista grew impatient. She used a crystal to view the city, and her heart nearly stopped. The demoness had entered the city and unleashed chaos. Citizens screamed, begging for help, while the demoness mocked them. "If the hero does not appear in 1 hour, I will kill everyone here." Furious, Rista rushed to Seiya. "She is destroying the city. We must go now." But Seiya said calmly, "I am not strong enough yet. I must train more. Time here flows slower, remember? We still have time." Rista shouted, "Yes, but time there is still moving. People are dying." She opened a portal in anger. Seiya stopped her. "I am not ready. If we go now, we will die." Rista cried, "And if we wait, the villagers will die instead." "You are a coward." But Seiya raised his voice. "I am not a coward. I am the only one who can save this world. That's why I must survive. I have trained non-stop for this. Restart looked at his stats and gasped. In only 2 days, Seiya had reached level 21. His attributes far stronger than before. He said, "Now, I am ready. Let's go." At that same moment, the demoness grew tired of waiting. She raised her sword to kill the townsfolk, but a blazing strike stopped her. Seiya had arrived. The demoness smirked. "You raised your strength faster than I expected, but tonight you will die." Rista shouted, "No! His stats are far higher than yours. Surrender now." But the demoness only laughed, then stabbed her own body with her sword. Rista screamed in horror, thinking she had killed herself. But no, she transformed into a monstrous abomination, far stronger than before. Rista checked the stats and almost fainted. Her numbers had tripled, beyond impossible. The monster charged, smashing everything around. Rista thought Seiya was dead, but when the dust cleared, he stood untouched. Shocked, she forced her way into his hidden stats, and what she saw made her tremble. Level 37. All attributes above 10,000. Dozens of terrifying skills. A power beyond belief. At first, Rista was completely shocked and unable to believe the numbers that appeared, and she said to herself, "It is impossible for someone to gain such power in only 2 days of training." And this meant that Seiya had been hiding his true abilities since the moment he came to this world. And even when he faced Disaster of Chaos, he was already capable of defeating her. But he chose to train more so he could guarantee a complete and overwhelming victory. And at that moment, only one thought came to Rista's mind, that this man was sick to a degree no one could ever feel safe around. Then the demoness herself was surprised by his strength and said to him, "It seems you are far stronger than I imagined, but this does not mean the battle is over." And she gathered all her power to destroy the city with everyone in it. But suddenly Seiya rushed toward her and struck her with the Hellfire Sword, exploding her body and turning her into ashes, erasing her existence from the world, and thus the battle finally ended. Rista approached him with great joy and told him that she had never imagined he was hiding such power, but he answered simply that this was natural, because he wanted to protect himself from enemies and guarantee complete victory. After that, the people of the city came to thank them for what they had done, and offered them to stay among them and hold a great celebration for their victory. But Seiya said he did not mind a celebration. Yet first he had to finish something important. Then he went and gathered the remains of Disaster of Chaos and destroyed them along with a large part of the city. And because of the destruction he caused, the people screamed and begged him to leave before he destroyed everything. After the two left the village, Rista began to scold him and said, "Are you insane? Why did you explode the demoness in the middle of the city? Couldn't you have done it outside?" But Seiya answered that he could not guarantee the remains would not possess him, so the best was to destroy them where they were. And while they were on the road, they met the man whom Seiya had saved with his daughter. And to thank him, he gave him some coins. But Seiya looked at the money and shouted, "You miser, I was about to leave your life to the demon for these few coins." The man trembled with fear, apologized quickly, and gave Seiya everything he had before leaving. But Rista was even more surprised and said, "Why did you take the money? Wasn't it the duty of the hero to help people without reward?" And Seiya replied, "I need money so I can become stronger and help people even more." The two returned to the kingdom of Brandea, and Rista sat with Arya, complaining to her about Seiya's behavior, saying that although his power was incredible, his actions were so strange and she still could not understand him. But Arya answered that this was natural because the world was extremely difficult, and that was why he was always cautious. Yet Rista was feeling bored and wanted to save the world quickly to become a great legend like Arya. So Arya sighed and said, "I am not the right person for you to be like." And Rista protested, "But you saved 300 worlds. Surely you are a great example." And Arya replied, "That is true. But among all those worlds there was one in which I failed terribly, even though its difficulty was low and all the conditions were favorable. But because of one mistake I destroyed the entire world." And Rista tried to comfort her by saying, "Failing in one world does not matter when you saved hundreds of others." At that moment Seiya entered the room without knocking, which angered Rista. But Arya was surprised as if she knew him, and she approached him asking how he was. But he looked at her and said, "Who are you and what do you want?" She introduced herself and asked him why he had come, and he told her that he was no longer gaining the same results from training alone. So he came to search for another way to increase his power, and Rista was happy and thought they would go fight monsters and begin their adventure. But Seiya refused and said he did not want to risk facing another demon. So Arya suggested that they go to see one of the legends in the kingdom to help him raise his strength. And here, Rista pulled her aside and said, "Who is this that will train him? We are not here to test him." But Arya told her they should go to the strongest trainer in the kingdom, Sirius the Sword Legend. And indeed, the three went to him. Arya told him that she wanted his help in training the hero so he could save the S-rank world, and Sirius agreed on one condition, that no matter what happened, Seiya had no right to stop the training or else he would never help him again. And Seiya replied sarcastically, "Don't puff out your chest too much, you might cry soon," which angered Sirius, and he asked him to show his skills, and the two began fighting. And although the sword legend was powerful, Seiya was able to match him, so Sirius was astonished by his skills and decided to teach him everything he knew. After 2 days, Rista went to see the progress of his training and found Sirius working in the kitchen, so she asked him in surprise about the training, and he said that Seiya was an extremely strong warrior, and although he was just a human, he had mastered most of his skills from the first day, and now he was so powerful that Sirius could no longer fight him with his normal strength, and Rista was very happy and said this was wonderful. After 4 more days, Rista was preparing food to celebrate Seiya's progress, but she was shocked to find Sirius hiding in the kitchen, so she asked in confusion, "What are you doing here?" And he whispered, "Lower your voice, if he hears me he will find me. I struggled a lot to escape from him." And she asked in surprise, "From whom are you talking?" He said, "From Seiya. That man is insane. I have never seen anyone with such caution and obsession for strength. He trained with me for 4 whole days without taking a single moment of rest, until he became 3 times stronger than me. And still he told me he would not leave me until he became 100 times stronger, so I ran away and hid here. That boy is very dangerous, my friend." At that moment, Seiya appeared suddenly and said to them, "Why are you delaying? We must return to training now." And Sirius screamed, "I hate my life because of you. If being a hero means I must train you, then I do not want to fight." And he threw his weapon into the sea to escape. But Seiya did not let him go and said, "You will train me until I reach the level I want." And Rista tried to stop him saying, "Leave the man alone." But suddenly, Arya appeared and told her that the great lady Ishtar wanted to meet her immediately. Rista went to Ishtar, the lady of the kingdom of Brandia, and asked her about the hero, and Rista answered with confidence, "Do not worry about him. He made the sword legend retire from battle because of what he did to him." And Ishtar laughed and said, "This is the nature of Sirius, even when he was only a human." And Rista was shocked and said, "What? I thought legends are born legends from the start." And Ishtar replied, "For a human to become a legend, he must do something great, like spreading his tail among everyone." And then she continued, "Sirius was an ordinary warrior, but through the training of his first master, he discovered his true strength and became the sword legend you know now. But this is not our main subject. I called you for something more important, because after you killed Disaster of Chaos, the Demon Lord sent a powerful monster to destroy the city of Simul and eliminate the allies who will support Seiya in his journey." Rista thanked her and hurried back to Seiya, but she found him holding Sirius and beating him harshly, so she stopped him and said, "What are you doing? Why are you hitting him like this?" And he answered coldly, "I am not hitting him. This is part of the training." But the desperate look in Sirius's eyes revealed the truth, so Rista said to him, "Leave the man alone. We have enemies waiting for us in the city." And Seiya smiled and said, "No problem, I am now completely ready for anything." After that, the two of them went to the city of Simul, but when they arrived, they found the townspeople leaving. Rista asked them why, and they said they had heard the city would soon be attacked, so they were preparing to flee to a safe place before the zombie army of the Demon King came to wipe them out. When Rista heard this, she was greatly troubled, because she knew that zombie monsters could not be harmed by sword attacks. To defeat them, they would need either very strong fire magic or holy water, so the two went to a merchant to buy this water. The merchant welcomed them warmly and said he would give them what they needed to protect the city, but Seiya replied coldly, "In that case, give me 10,000 bottles." The merchant was stunned and said, "How can you ask that? I don't even own that much myself." Seiya became angry and grabbed the man to force him to give him what he wanted, but Rista quickly stepped in, stopped him, and only took 10 bottles. Then they went to the church to meet the allies that Ishtar had told them about. There they met the priest, who thanked them for their help and said he had brought the 2 strongest people in the city to fight alongside them. They were the siblings Mash and Lulu, who carried the blood of the legendary dragons. But Seiya ignored the priest's words and instead poured the holy water on his head in front of everyone. People thought he was mocking the priest, but suddenly the man burned and fell to the ground. Rista was shocked, for she realized the priest was actually a zombie. The zombie roared in rage, shouting that he would kill everyone there to make the invasion easier, but Seiya gave him no chance. He rushed at him like a dragon and cut him to pieces until nothing remained. The people stood frozen in disbelief, for they had not even seen his attack. As he lay dying, the zombie sneered, "Do you think this is over? I was only a soldier. Tomorrow, a whole army of 100,000 zombies will come and erase this city from existence. Seiya answered flatly. Thank you for the information. Now disappear. Rista panicked at his words, for they meant a true disaster was coming. She grabbed Seiya to make him escape quickly, but he destroyed the entire church, along with everything around it instead. The people were horrified at his destructive power, and whispered among themselves, if this is his strength just cleaning up, how terrifying will he be in a real battle? The siblings Mash and Lulu thanked Seiya for saving them, but he suddenly poured holy water over both of them to make sure they were not zombies. He even poured some over Rista herself, saying he had to make sure she wasn't a zombie pig. When he was satisfied, Rista checked the siblings' statistics, but found them very weak. Still, she told Seiya, their numbers are not perfect, but with training they will improve. Seiya, however, looked disgusted and said, these two are useless to me. They should leave. She protested. But they carry dragon blood, which means they will become stronger in the future. He replied coldly, that is exactly why I don't want them. Then the city guards arrived, asking about the explosion. The nun explained that the priest was a zombie, and the hero saved them. The captain thanked Seiya and said they had brought 200 soldiers to fight with him against the zombie army. But Seiya refused. Keep them in the city. I will handle the army alone. The captain was shocked. There are 10,000 zombies. How can you face them alone? Seiya replied, that is none of your concern. Just protect yourselves and take these two children to make them useful somehow. Rista became angry and said, don't speak to people like that. They only want to help you. But Seiya answered, I will not allow anyone to throw away their lives for nothing. I can handle all of this on my own. At that moment, Rista realized that what he said was not arrogance, but his way of protecting them. The two went to where the zombie army was advancing in massive numbers. Seiya realized he could not use holy water on all of them, so he used a new skill he had trained. Suddenly, he summoned a giant meteor from the sky that crashed down upon the army, erasing them completely. Rista was left in shock, unable to understand how he possessed such power. Then the two returned to the city to rest. A few days later, Lulu came crying to Rista, saying that her brother Mash had disappeared and she did not know where he went. Rista tried to calm her, saying he would be fine, since they had already destroyed the zombie army and there should be no danger. Lulu thanked her and asked where Seiya was. Rista told her he was in his room, but when they went to check, they found the place in complete chaos. She asked him, what did you do here? He replied that he had been trying to forge a powerful weapon for battle and had finally succeeded. Rista looked at it and found it was a platinum weapon of great strength. She asked how he managed to create it, and he answered that he needed a legendary material to strengthen it, so he had used strands of her fallen hair and melted them into the weapon. She exploded with anger but could do nothing about it. Soon after, the landlady brought a gift, saying someone had asked her to deliver it to Seiya. When Rista opened it, she found an ordinary mirror, but suddenly a terrifying skeleton appeared from it, with Mash beside him. The skeleton introduced himself. I am Deathma, Calamity of the Dead, the one responsible for developing monsters in the Demon King's army. He said he had not imagined they would destroy his army so quickly, so he had taken Mash and would keep torturing him until he killed him. The demon began tormenting the boy, but Mash endured the pain bravely. No one could help him. Then Seiya ordered Rista to open the gate to Brandia Kingdom at once. He looked at Mash and said, you have proven yourself truly brave. I will make you my item carrier. Hold on tight, and do not die now. He then raised his sword to attack the demon. Deathma laughed, it's useless. You don't know where I am, so you cannot hit me. But that rule did not apply to Seiya. He dashed straight at the mirror, slashed with deadly force, and cut off Deathma's arm. Everyone was shocked, asking how he struck him without even knowing his location. Seiya then pulled everyone through the gate to Brandia Kingdom to gain some time. His real goal was to save Mash quickly. Rista told him she had a way to reach the demon's place, so they went together to ask Ishtar for help. She agreed and opened a gate directly to the location. There, Seiya attacked the demon and pulled Mash away from him, but his strikes had no effect. When the demon realized he could not defeat Seiya, he decided to use his secret weapon. He summoned a strange monster before the hero. Seiya tried to cut it with his sword, but it did not react. The demon laughed. Don't waste your energy. This beast cannot be harmed by any attack. When Rista examined it, she found most of its statistics were over 30,000, and it could only be hurt by ice magic. The demon explained, the only way to kill it is with a frozen direct blow before it reforms its body, and the strike must be stronger than 10,000. Neither of you has any of these requirements. The best choice for you is to surrender. But Seiya smiled and said, you think this will stop me? Watch closely. He dashed like lightning, seized the monster's body with his hands, then used the ice seal in his other hand to freeze it solid. Drawing his sword, he unleashed the flames of hell and tore it apart completely. At last, he won. They all returned to the city, and Mash thanked them for saving him. Seiya promised that one day he would help him repay the favor. Then he asked them to follow him to the cave of the legendary Dragon Clan, which held the great weapon capable of killing the Demon King. Rista was overjoyed, seeing this as a new adventure, but Seiya said coldly, "First, we will return and train more, to raise our strength before anything else." After that, they all went to the great kingdom of Brandia. They were amazed by the beauty of the place and wanted to explore it further, but Seiya told them they needed a strong person to train them so they could face what awaited. So they all set out to find Sirius, but instead of the training ground, they found him working in the kitchen, as if Seiya had drained him so much that he gave up fighting and turned to cooking. When Seiya saw him, he shouted, "Stop this nonsense and return to training at once." Sirius trembled and said with fear that he never wanted to see the training grounds again in his life. At that moment, Rista stepped in and said, "This time you will not train Seiya, but you will train Mash." The moment Sirius heard this, he sighed with relief and was overjoyed. Finally, I will never train with that man again. He quickly agreed to train Mash. After that, Rista took Lulu to the Legend of Fire so she could train her. In this way, everyone had a teacher and a role, except for Seiya, who still had no one to train him. Then Arya arrived and told them she knew the perfect person to train Seiya. She led them to a dark, terrifying place, where a frightening young woman appeared. Arya introduced her, saying, "This is Adele, the Legend of War, the second strongest warrior in the kingdom after Valkyrie, the Legend of Destruction." But Seiya was unconvinced and mocked her, saying she looked weak and he could learn nothing from her. He turned to leave, but Adele moved with incredible speed and appeared behind him. She said, "You are able to sense me with your eyes. That proves you have the qualifications to learn the skill of the Eternal Sword. But learning it will not be as easy as you think. Can you endure it?" Seiya replied coldly, "As long as the skill is powerful, I will learn it no matter what." 3 days later, Rista came to gather the group so they could head to the Dragon Cave to obtain the legendary weapon. When she went to check on Mash, she was shocked to see his statistics had risen greatly, and the power of the dragon inside him was awakening. But sadly, it was not the same for Lulu. Her statistics had not changed at all. The Legend of Fire had tried to teach her the basics of magic, but discovered her ability was too weak, and it was clear she could never learn magic. Rista did not want to tell Lulu the truth and break her heart, so she simply took her along to join Seiya. The whole team gathered, and together they traveled until they reached the cave of the Great Dragon Clan. When they arrived, they found a massive gate blocking the way. The condition to open it was that the chosen ones themselves must activate it. Mash was excited, thinking he could finally help Seiya, but before anyone could even touch the gate, Seiya had already smashed it apart with his new skill. He said coldly, "Are we really going to waste time waiting?" Then they all went inside but found nothing. They began to wonder if the legendary weapon was just a myth. Suddenly, a voice spoke to them, "If you want the weapon, you must pass through this gate." They entered and found themselves in the middle of the Dragon Clan, a grand and majestic place that looked as if it had come out of a fantasy tale. But what they wanted was not the beauty of the place, but the weapon itself. They went together to meet the Dragon Queen Levi. When they arrived, she welcomed them and thanked them for fighting the calamities that had appeared on the surface. She said she would help them as much as possible, then called forth Mash and placed a magic spell on him. The power of the dragon burst from within, and all his statistics increased tenfold. Lulu rejoiced when she saw this and begged Levi to grant her the same power. But Levi told her, "You do not need this strength. Soon, you will become the strongest sword in the world, the demon-slaying sword." At those words, everyone was stunned. Mash asked what she meant. Levi answered seriously, "To obtain the legendary weapon of this clan, Lulu must sacrifice her life. She alone will transform into the sword capable of killing the Demon King." Mash panicked. "We did not come here to defeat the Demon King by sacrificing Lulu. I will never accept this." But Levi replied coldly, "There is no other choice. The whole land is on the edge of destruction because of the demon forces spreading everywhere and killing anyone in their path. The small towns you saw safe were only protected because the Demon King was waiting for the hero to appear. Now that he has, it is only a matter of time before they are destroyed. This means we must take Lulu's life in exchange for saving the lives of everyone else. This is the only way to kill the Demon King." The group left Levi deeply disheartened. Rista tried to comfort Lulu, but she was crushed with sadness, even more so when Seiya said coldly, If this is the reality, then there is nothing we can do. Lulu wept and left. That night, the ceremony for the sword began, and Lulu was to descend into the pit so the ritual could be completed and the demon-slaying sword revealed. She stood broken and sorrowful, saying she wished she could be useful and help Seiya save the world. She stepped toward the edge, ready to fall, but Mash stood to stop them. "I will never allow you to sacrifice her." Yet the guards restrained him and forced Lulu to continue. In the moment everyone thought it was the end, Seiya suddenly appeared behind the guards and destroyed them all. Lulu stared in shock. "Why did you do this? Now we will never get the sword," Seiya answered coldly. "Sword? You carry my bags. If you become a sword, who will carry them for me?" Levi shouted in anger. "This way, we will never obtain the weapon to end the Demon King." But Seiya replied, "I do not trust that such a weapon even exists, nor that it can defeat the Demon King. And even if it were the only way, I would not accept it. I will find another path to destroy him." Levi's fury grew. Mash tried to stop her, but he and everyone else collapsed to the ground, unable to move. They realized Levi had put a drug in the food. She laughed. "Now none of you can move. Complete the ritual." She thought she had won, but she did not know that Seiya had only pretended to eat. He smirked. "I knew what you would do, so I only acted as if I ate. Now you've fallen into my trap." Levi roared with rage and transformed into a giant dragon, determined to kill Seiya as quickly as possible. Rista checked her statistics and was horrified. They were more terrifying than anything they had faced before. Levi said with confidence, "Surrender now. You cannot defeat me with your ordinary sword. You are already dead." But Seiya sneered, "Who said I would fight you with this sword?" He pulled from his bag the dragon-slaying sword. "When you come to the Dragon Clan, you'd better be prepared. Now, prepare yourself." Levi rushed straight toward Lulu, but Seiya stepped in front of her and saved her. Levi grew angrier and said, "Do you really think you can protect her from me? I have prepared everything perfectly." Suddenly, Lulu screamed in pain from the necklace around her neck. It turned out that Levi had placed a deadly curse on it, one that would kill her within 3 minutes. The only way to save her was to defeat Levi herself. Without a moment of hesitation, Seiya dashed at Levi, and with a single strike, he cut half of her life points. Rista rejoiced and said, "If he keeps attacking like this, we will win and escape from here." But Levi only smirked and replied, "So you are strong indeed. But sadly, all of this is still not enough to defeat me." Then she transformed completely into her true form, the full golden dragon. Her voice thundered, "Now I am invincible. Not a single blow can even scratch me." Seiya answered coldly, "Invincible to yourself, not to me." He then pulled out a pouch, swallowed all the speed pills inside to multiply his speed, and drew another dragon-slaying sword. He struck Levi again and again with all his might, yet even with all that speed and strength, he could not leave a single mark on her golden body. 1 minute passed, and Lulu's cursed necklace was close to killing her. With tears in her eyes, she cried, "Enough, Seiya, do not exhaust yourself anymore. I have already accepted my end." But Seiya ignored her words and kept fighting with relentless determination. Everyone thought he was wasting his strength, until Levi noticed something strange. Yes, he was not attacking her to kill, but to slowly push her toward the edge of the cliff. Shocked, Levi shouted, "Why are you doing this? I was helping Lulu to become useful to you. Why save her when she is worthless?" Seiya's voice hardened. "Do not mistake her value. She is the one who carries my bags. As long as I am here, no one will lay a hand on her." As Levi neared the cliff, she tried to strike him with a final attack, but Seiya unleashed a powerful blow that sent her crashing off the edge. She laughed bitterly. "Did you really think you could drop me? I have wings, I will fly." But when she tried to take flight, she discovered her wings were torn. She fell straight into the abyss, and from the cliff's edge, a massive, powerful sword rose. Everyone was stunned, for the only sword that could emerge from here was the demon-slaying sword, and it was said it would appear only through the sacrifice of the Chosen One. Then Seiya told them calmly, "This sword only requires the sacrifice of a member of the Dragon Clan. Since Levi gave her life, we obtained the sword without needing any other sacrifice." They all left the cave. Lulu was overjoyed because she had not turned into a sword and could remain with her brother Mash. Rista, however, asked Lulu to go out with her brother for a while, as she wanted to speak with Seiya alone. When she was with him, she said, "I know the sword you hold is not the real demon-slaying sword. The true one holds an immense legendary power, but this one does not." Seiya replied calmly, "You are right. but I did this to make sure no one would ever dare approach Lulu again. Rista was deeply moved, realizing how kind he truly was beneath his cold and harsh exterior. When they exited the cave, they found a group of warriors waiting for them. Their leader stepped forward and said they had come from Olga Fortress, seeking Seiya's help to defeat one of the Demon King's subordinates, named Bob. He was half demon and half fly. Yes, as strange as it sounds, his other half was an enormous fly. Yet he had become a scourge upon the people of the fortress, killing them mercilessly. They begged Seiya to aid them in destroying him. Seiya set off with Rista to observe the place where the demon dwelled. There they saw a massive nest swarming with giant flying beasts. Each one was at least level 30, and their number exceeded 400. Seiya watched carefully, analyzing how to deal with them. Then Bob appeared. Though his statistics were not very high, his terrifying speed made him extremely dangerous. Meanwhile, some knights were hiding in the forest, hoping to ambush him. They fired their arrows, but none could touch the flies because of their great speed. Bob laughed mockingly and said, "What a fun game. Let me play with you too." He ordered his minions to seize several knights, carry them high into the air, and drop them to their deaths. Then he said coldly, "I will continue killing ordinary humans until the hero shows himself." And with that, he flew away. Seiya realized the Demon King was trying to lure him into a trap to finish him, so he knew he had to act with even greater caution. He went to the surviving knights and met their commander, a girl named Rosalie. She welcomed them with gratitude and ordered her soldiers to prepare for battle against Bob, but her assistant interrupted, saying it was impossible now due to the damage and losses. He suggested returning to the fortress to strengthen their defenses and prepare properly before fighting. Rosalie agreed, and they all went back to the fortified Olga fortress. There, the assistant reassured them that they would be safe, as the fortress was protected by every type of defense, and Bob's army could not break in easily. He added that the supreme commander, the legendary warlord, the strongest warrior in the world, was inside the fortress, and no one could stand against him. Seiya asked with surprise, "If he is that strong, why does he not save the world himself?" The assistant answered, "There is a reason that prevents the warlord from leaving the fortress. That is why I brought you here." Later, they entered the council hall. Rosalie announced that she would gather her forces and fight alongside Seiya to defeat Bob, the calamity of the sky. But Seiya shocked her, saying he would not kill anyone. In fact, he would leave. Rosalie was stunned and shouted, "Will you abandon us in the middle of the battle? We have been waiting so long for you." Seiya replied coldly, "I am not ready yet to face those fast-flying monsters. I must train more until I can be sure of destroying them." Rosalie shouted in anger, "We must attack Bob's army now to avenge the soldiers who died." Seiya answered sharply, "You are the reason they died. If you had not recklessly attacked his army, none of them would have been lost." Furious, Rosalie attacked him with her weapon, but he blocked her strike with ease and threw her aside. Enraged, she raised her weapon again and cried, "We don't need a cowardly hero like you. I will defeat Bob myself." But Seiya replied coolly, "Yes, your statistics are strong, but not strong enough to defeat him. If you go alone, you will only die for nothing. Stay here. It is better for you." Rista quickly tried to calm them and said, "Let's step away for just 1 hour, then we will return." So they left and traveled until they reached the kingdom of Brandea. There, Rista told Seiya he should not have spoken to Rosalie that way. Seiya answered seriously that her reckless actions had caused needless deaths, and for that reason, he must raise his power high enough to stop such disasters. Rista understood then that even though his words were cold, he was truly trying to protect them all. Seiya then said he needed a trainer with the ability to attack from long range. Fortunately, Rista knew the perfect person. They all headed into the deep forests, where they met Matthias, the legend of archery. Rista asked her to help train Seiya so that he could defeat Bob, the calamity of the skies. Matthias smiled and said she could teach him her special skill, arrows of light, an attack that no enemy could dodge no matter how fast they were. Seiya agreed at once, and then Rista took Mash and Lulu with her to find them another trainer. During this time, Sirius appeared. When he saw Rista, he panicked, fearing that Seiya might be with her, but she quickly reassured him that Seiya was not there, and that he was currently training under Matthias, the legend of archery. Sirius sighed in relief but warned her, "You must take Seiya and run." Since the day he left, Adele has been searching for him to kill him. Rista was shaken by his words and rushed to consult Arya, who calmly told her it was impossible for Adele to harm the hero, as she was busy training Mash and Lulu until Seiya's training ended. Grateful for her words, Rista left reassured, but deep down she still wanted to see for herself. She went to Adele's chambers and was startled to find her standing there in a terrifying posture. Rista nervously explained that she only came to thank her for her help, but Adele ignored her words and asked directly if Seiya had come with her, saying she needed to speak to him. Rista answered that she was alone, and Seiya was not with her. Later, Rista returned to the forest to check on Seiya, and warned him not to step outside lest Adele see him, but Seiya smirked and said, "Are you stupid? She's standing right behind you." Indeed, Adele appeared, drew her sword, and said sharply, "Do you think I'll let you live after abandoning me? I will cut you down now." Terrified, Rista screamed for Seiya to run, but he ignored her and walked calmly toward Adele, saying, "Stop this nonsense and calm down. I'm training right now." Rista was stunned by his coldness, but the real shock was that Adele suddenly sheathed her sword, calmed down, and walked away silently. Days passed, and Rista checked on Mash and Lulu's progress. She found that Mash had awakened the full power of the dragon, and Lulu had gained the ability to speed up or slow down anything she touched. Overjoyed, Rista realized they were now strong enough to help Seiya in future battles. With everyone's training complete, they returned to the castle ready for the coming war. But when they arrived, they were shocked to learn from Rosalie's aide that she had already gone alone to confront Bob, the calamity of the skies. Seiya understood how dangerous this was, so he rushed with Rista and the others to the battlefield. There, they saw Rosalie recklessly attempting to storm Bob's nest of giant flies. Seiya seized the opportunity to prepare his arrows of light, hoping to kill Bob with a single strike. But Rosalie was captured easily, held tightly in Bob's grip. Her life was on the line, and Seiya's chance was gone. He turned to Rista and ordered her to save Rosalie and distract Bob long enough for him to prepare his final attack. Rista obeyed and tried her best to draw Bob's attention, but the demon sensed something was wrong. He carried Rosalie high into the sky, far above where any attack could reach, even magical arrows. Still, Rista refused to give up on Seiya's plan and continued distracting Bob, while Seiya carefully prepared his shot. Finally, he released the arrow of light, but Bob dodged it and tightened his hold on Rosalie, now fully aware that Seiya was hunting him. Laughing in the skies, Bob shouted, "I am the fastest in the heavens. No one can catch me, no one can strike me." Then he rained down a storm of arrows at breakneck speed, and though Seiya dodged them all, the assault allowed Bob to pinpoint his exact location. In an instant, Bob dove toward him at terrifying speed, certain it was the final blow. But suddenly, his chest was torn open by a deep wound. Seiya's new technique had struck him directly, and with one final decisive strike, Seiya finished him off completely. Rista and Rosalie stood frozen, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. A battle that had seemed impossible, hopeless from the start, had ended in Seiya's victory. After the fight, Rosalie stepped forward and apologized to Seiya for all the mistakes she had made and the harm she caused during the battle. Then she revealed that she knew the location of a legendary shield hidden deep in the forest, a shield capable of withstanding the overwhelming power of the demon lord himself. If they obtained it, Seiya's strength would grow even further. Seiya thanked her for the information and immediately set off with Rista and the others. But when they arrived, destruction greeted them. The entire place had been obliterated. They searched desperately for survivors who might explain what had happened, but found none. Everyone had been slaughtered. And then, out of nowhere, an old dwarf appeared before them and said mockingly, "I hope you enjoyed the welcome party. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Baal, the calamity of the end. And since you've seen my face, your end is near." He raised his hand and summoned a monstrous beast, and from inside it pulled out the legendary shield Rosalie had spoken of. But it was broken, utterly useless. Baal laughed coldly. "Now you've lost the shield, just as you lost the sword. There is no other weapon in this world that can defeat the demon lord. Your mission is over. All that remains is death." He then drew a dark magic circle beneath him and stabbed himself, and in a terrifying instant, a dreadful phantom emerged. It was the true calamity of the end. When they tried to look at its stats, they found they were beyond measure, greater than numbers themselves, power beyond comprehension. Seiya launched his strongest magic in a desperate attempt to stop it, but nothing worked. It was an enemy that seemed utterly invincible. Realizing the hopelessness of the battle, Seiya ordered Rista to open a portal immediately. With great difficulty, they escaped. Panting from exhaustion, Rista gasped, "What will we do now? That monster's power is terrifying, greater than anything we've ever faced." Seiya replied firmly, I will need harsher training. I must raise my strength even higher to stand a chance against it. But before he could finish his words, another dark portal suddenly opened right before them. The horrifying monster emerged once again. It had reached them even through the dimensional barriers that protected the kingdom. Terrified, Rista turned to Seiya and asked, "What do we do now?" But this time, even Seiya himself stood in silence, unsure how to face the nightmare before them. Fear gripped Rista deeply, and she said, "If even Seiya himself does not know how to defeat this monster, then who possibly can? Our end has come, and there is no hope left." Suddenly, the legends of the kingdom appeared one after another, unleashing all their strength against the terrifying phantom. They struck with swords, unleashed spells, and poured out every ability they had, yet not a single blow left a scratch upon the creature. At that very moment, when Rista turned to speak with Seiya in search of a plan, she realized he had vanished. Yes, my friend, he had run away, leaving the place behind. He was no longer half the hero. He had taken the whole of heroism with him, abandoning everyone else to flee from the monster that chased them without mercy. Rista and the others had no choice but to run as well, the creature pursuing them relentlessly, refusing to let them escape. The legends tried again, standing one by one in the path of the monster to delay it, but none could stand against its overwhelming might. In the end, Seiya appeared before Adele, and with grave seriousness he said, "Monster, and I will give you whatever you desire." Delighted, Adele charged forward with her eternal sword, yet even the second strongest warrior of the kingdom could not withstand the calamity of the end. She fell helplessly before its power. Then Seiya spoke, "If even Adele cannot stop it, then we must go to the strongest of all." They all rushed swiftly, until they reached her, Valkyrie, the legend of destruction. When the monster came near, Seiya stood his ground, awaiting the strike. As the beast lunged at him, he dodged skillfully, redirecting the blow into Valkyrie's shield. The shield shattered instantly, and Valkyrie's fury ignited. She unleashed her full strength upon the creature. Yet all her strikes failed to bring it down, until at last she resolved to use her greatest technique. She raised her hand to the sky, summoning an immense iron cage that descended upon the monster, trapping it inside. Then she poured forth her full destructive force, obliterating it completely. The skill worked, but left Valkyrie gravely injured, her body nearly broken. Seiya, impressed, approached and asked her to teach him the technique. But Valkyrie shook her head and said, "This is no ordinary skill. It is a technique that demands the user's life in exchange for the enemy's. Even with all my strength, I barely survived the backlash. If you were to attempt it, you would surely die." Yet Seiya replied with unshaken resolve, "I came here to save this world. If the price is my life, I will bear it. Teach me." Moved by his determination, Valkyrie finally agreed to train him. Meanwhile, Rista went to rest from the horrors of what had happened, but was suddenly approached by Sirius, who told her that Ishtar wished to see her at once. She went to the great lady, who spoke with a stern face. "The army of the demon lord has already gathered on the borders of Olga Fortress. They are preparing for a massive assault soon. You must ready yourselves to face them, for after this attack, you will confront the demon lord himself." Rista thanked her for the warning and hurried to prepare for the coming battle. 2 days later, she went to check on Mash and Lulu, and was overjoyed to see their skills had improved greatly. Their strength now reached a level worthy of standing against the demon lord's army. When their preparations were complete, all of them returned with Seiya toward Olga Fortress. Yet Rista's heart was uneasy, for she noticed that Seiya had not spoken his usual words, "I am fully prepared," which filled her with suspicion. Upon reaching the fortress walls, they saw the demon lord's army arrayed on the border, both sides ready, the air thick with tension. Within moments, the commander of the demon army appeared and declared the beginning of battle. Rista quickly checked his statistics and found him extremely powerful, so she turned to Seiya and said, "You must act. Go help the soldiers of the fortress fight them." But Seiya answered calmly, "They do not need my help, not while he is here." Surprised, Rista asked, "Who do you mean?" And then he appeared, an aged warrior whose very presence radiated authority. He walked forward with unshakable dignity, stood before the demon commander, and with a single stroke of his ancient sword, split him clean in two, tearing him apart completely. The entire demon army, seeing such overwhelming power, broke into panic and fled. But the old warrior gave them no chance. He unleashed his legendary weapon, the Great Sword of Light, and with one devastating strike, erased them from existence as though they had never been. With that, the old warrior declared victory for the human army. Rista asked in awe, "Who is this man with such terrifying strength? The answer was clear. None but the legendary warlord, the strongest man in the world. Shocked, Rista examined his statistics and found them beyond comprehension, nearly equal to Seiya's own power. The warlord approached them and thanked Rista and her companions for protecting the fortress. Rista seized the chance and asked him to join their coming battle against the demon lord. But suddenly, without warning, his body trembled and he collapsed to the ground. Rista rushed to his side, only to witness a shocking sight. His body had shrunk, transformed into that of a small, helpless child. At that moment, Rosalie ran forward, exclaiming that this was her father. Confused, Rista asked, "How could this be? Only moments ago he fought as a giant, and now he is a child." Rosalie explained, "This always happens whenever my father uses his full strength. After each great battle, his body is drained to this extent." But Rista was unsatisfied and pressed her for the full truth. Rosalie sighed and said, "If you want to know everything, then follow me to the castle. There, I will reveal all that has been hidden." Once they returned, Rosalie's first question to them was, "Where is the legendary shield I told you about?" Seiya answered bluntly, "Calamity of the End destroyed it." A silence fell before anger and grief clouded Rosalie's face. She said bitterly, "That shield was the only hope for saving my father." Then she steadied herself and continued, "For years my father, the warlord, has fought the armies of demons without pause, until he finally reached their fortress itself, seeking to destroy their king. Before they could reach the gates of the fortress to aid the warlord, they were struck with shock. He had already transformed into a child. Rosalie and the mages tried desperately to heal him, but it was useless. A deadly curse clung to his soul, forcing his body into that form whenever he unleashed his full power. This was why they had sought the legendary shield, to break the curse and restore him. Yet Seiya spoke coldly, "You do not need to waste thought on this. I will not rely on anyone to fight the demon lord. Instead, focus on protecting the people of the fortress." Later, he and his companions met the warlord, who had by then regained his adult form. The man confessed that he remembered nothing after defeating the demon army, but even so, he remained determined to fight the demon lord alongside Seiya. Seiya, however, looked at him with sharp eyes and said, "I do not want you in this battle. You will be a burden rather than an aid." The warlord was pained by the words, but deep down admitted their truth. So he resolved to guard the fortress, leaving the greater war to the hero. Suddenly, a guard rushed in, crying that the demon lord's army had returned, this time larger than ever, preparing for a full assault. The warlord prepared to march out, but Seiya stopped him. "I will handle this myself." He took Mash and Lulu and departed, leaving Rista to walk the fortress halls with the warlord. As they walked, the warlord spoke quietly. "You are a remarkable one. Unlike ordinary humans, heroes and legends do not truly die if something happens to them in this world. Their original souls are kept safe in a hidden place until their mission ends." He continued, "But in my last battle with the demon lord, he revealed a terrifying truth. He has forged a weapon that can destroy the original soul of a legend. With it, he can rule this world unchallenged." Rista froze in horror and asked, "How do you know this?" He answered darkly, "Because the demon lord himself told me." Suddenly, he drew forth a weapon glowing with a sinister aura. It was the very tool designed to shatter souls. Rista screamed in disbelief. "Why do you carry such a weapon?" The warlord replied, "I took it from the demon lord to fulfill his commands now." With frightening speed, he lunged, driving the weapon into the ground and pinning her. With tears in her eyes, she asked, "Why do you want to kill me?" He answered coldly, "To prove my loyalty to the demon lord. After witnessing his full power, I realized he cannot be defeated. By serving him, I can at least protect my kingdom from ruin." He raised his weapon for the final strike. But do you think she would perish while Seiya was near? Of course not. The hero arrived at the very moment, pulling Rista from death. Stunned, the warlord asked, "How did you know I would betray you?" Seiya replied with calm certainty, "Your story made no sense. Why would the demon lord spare a man of your strength? There was only one answer. He kept you alive to use you as his pawn against us." The warlord sneered, "Since you know the truth, there is no reason to delay." He swallowed a strange pill, and in an instant, his body exploded with monstrous power. He hurled himself at Seiya, slashing with brutal force, wounding him deeply. Realizing this was no game, Seiya shed his heavier armor to move freely, summoned his strongest weapons, and enhanced them to their fullest. Then the two clashed with earth-shaking ferocity, every strike shaking the ground. Rista could not even follow their speed. The warlord praised him through the battle. "You exceeded all my expectations, but now it ends." With a savage blow, he severed Seiya's arm, sending him crashing to the ground in blood. The warlord moved for the finishing strike, but Seiya rose again despite the agony. He drew his second blade and struck, cutting off the warlord's arm in turn. return. They exchanged desperate blows until at last Seiya unleashed the power of his flame sword, his ultimate strike, and finished the warlord once and for all. Afterward, Rista rushed to heal Seiya's severed arm. Seiya told her, "Go heal the warlord as well, and bring Rosalie to say her farewell before he dies." Rosalie at first refused, crying, "That man is no longer my father. He betrayed us all, selling his soul to the demon lord despite everything he had done for mankind." Then Seiya handed her 2 small torches and lit them, saying, "Reproach is useless once the dead are gone. Use the time left to confront him while he still lives." Humbled, Rosalie approached her father. With his last breaths, the warlord said, "Forgive me, my daughter. I only wanted to protect you and the people of this fortress. I never wished for things to end this way." Tears fell from Rosalie's eyes as she embraced him, whispering her farewell. At last, the great warlord exhaled his final breath and departed this world. 2 days passed after the great battle. In that time, Rosalie announced the death of her father, the warlord, saying his passing was due to old age. From that moment, she became the one responsible for the fortress. Meanwhile, Seiya was still recovering from his severe wounds, but he healed quickly and regained his full strength. He thanked his companions for supporting him throughout the journey, then told them to rest and enjoy the city before the final confrontation with the demon lord. Everyone rejoiced at the idea and went out happily, but when they returned to the fortress, they were shocked. Seiya had vanished without a trace. Rista searched everywhere, fear gripping her heart, believing he might have gone off to do something reckless alone. She hurried to Ishtar, whom she found near the sacred tree of life. There, Ishtar revealed the truth. When you left him, he had already gone to face the demon lord by himself. Rista was stunned. "That's impossible," she cried. "Seiya never acts recklessly. He always prepares before a battle, and the demon lord wields the weapon that can destroy a legend's original soul. That means Seiya is in real danger. He could die forever." But Ishtar answered calmly, "That is precisely why he went alone. He wanted to make sure none of you would be harmed." Rista shook her head in disbelief. "No, that's not possible. Seiya is cold. He doesn't care about anyone. There's no way he would risk himself for us." Ishtar gave her a gentle smile. "That is only what you thought. In truth, all this time, his harsh words and coldness were just a mask, a way to hide his desire to protect you." Tears welled in Rista's eyes as she asked, "If that's true, then why didn't he train, as he always does, to raise his strength before leaving?" At that, Ishtar revealed the truth. Seiya had already reached the absolute limits of his power long ago, even before entering the Dragonkin clan. His recent training no longer added anything to his strength. That is why he chose to learn Valkyrie's final skill and face the demon lord alone, even if it meant his death, because saving the world mattered more to him than his own life. Rista collapsed in tears. "Why? Why does he want to protect me like this? This is not his battle alone." Ishtar sighed. "He does this not only for the world, but to repay an old debt that he could never settle before." Suddenly, a group of adventurers appeared in the forest, and among them was Arya. Rista rushed to her in shock. "Arya, why are you here? What brought you with them?" Arya answered seriously, "These are my memories from a world I once guided. In that world, I chose Seiya as my hero to save it. But back then, he was different. He cared only for fighting and adventure. Reckless as he was, he always found some way to win." His journey continued until only one battle remained, the final confrontation with the demon lord. In that last battle, Seiya fought with all his might, and at last struck what should have been the finishing blow. Everyone thought it was over. That victory was theirs. But suddenly, the demon lord rose again, his wounds completely healed as if untouched. Arya tried to stop him, but she was swallowed by the monster before their eyes. Only Seiya and his party's healer remained. Seiya begged her to heal his wounds so he could continue fighting. But with sorrow, she told him her power was exhausted. The demon lord charged toward her. Seiya tried to rise, but he was too weak, his body failing him. Again and again he fell, unable to lift his weapon. In despair, he broke down in tears, realizing his entire team had died because of him, and he could not protect them. At this point, Arya stopped her tale, tears streaming down her face. She admitted that the failure of that mission was her fault. If only she had gathered more information and prepared properly, they might have defeated the demon lord and saved that world. Her negligence cost them everything. Rista, overwhelmed by grief, collapsed into sobs. She did not understand at first why she wept so much, until she remembered. This was the price she herself had paid to become the goddess of healing. She had sacrificed her own world and lost all memory of it forever. At that moment, she finally understood everything about Seiya. Seiya. His coldness toward her was not hatred but fear of repeating that tragedy. He treated her harshly not to hurt her, but to protect her. Through her tears, Rista declared that she could not leave him to fight alone. No matter the cost, she would go to his side. Arya tried to stop her, but her resolve was unshakable. At last, Arya opened a portal, sending her to Seiya's battlefield. When Rista arrived, she found Seiya locked in battle with the Demon Lord. He was fighting with everything he had, yet still could not finish the monster. At last he unleashed Valkyrie's forbidden skill, and its tremendous force tore into the Demon Lord, nearly destroying him, but the fiend clung to life, refusing to die. In that desperate moment, Seiya drew the underworld sword and drove it straight into the Demon Lord's head, obliterating him once and for all. The war had finally ended, but the cost was severe. Seiya's body began to bleed from every wound, the skill draining away his life. He collapsed, his strength gone. Rista rushed to him, pouring all her healing magic into his body, but it was not enough. In desperation, she offered up all the life energy within her, channeling it into him. By a miracle, she brought him back from the edge of death. After everyone rejoiced and thought that everything had finally ended, the Demon Lord suddenly appeared again from within a dark portal. He smiled an evil smile and said, "Do you really think I will leave alone? No, all of you will come with me." He released a massive sphere of energy, like a burning sun, strong enough to destroy the entire planet in a single instant. At that moment, fear filled Rista's heart, and she believed this was truly the end. But Seiya would never accept for the story to end this way. Forcing his exhausted body to respond, he summoned the forbidden power once more, and unleashed the skill executioner for the second time. The Demon Lord tried to escape, but how could he when Seiya had already trapped him? With a crushing strike, Seiya finished him completely, and the Demon Lord vanished from this world forever. Yet the skill did not leave him in peace. Seiya heard its voice whispering inside him, "You have used me twice, and now you must pay the price." His body began to break apart rapidly, as if his very cells were evaporating into the air. Rista rushed to him with all her strength, trying to heal him, but her magic was not enough. She kept screaming and crying, pouring every ounce of power she had into saving him. But Seiya stopped her with his trembling hand and said, "Don't cry. There is no need for this. At last, this time, I was able to protect you." And with those final words, his body shattered completely and disappeared before her eyes. Rista collapsed to the ground, crying hysterically, unable to accept that her great hero had ended this way. And so came the close of Seiya's legendary tale, the story that would be told for hundreds of years. The story of the hero who saved the world and sacrificed himself in the end. When the war was over and peace returned, Rista gathered with everyone to bid them farewell. She thanked them for helping her through the journey, promising that their memory would live in her heart forever. Then she returned to the kingdom of Brandy, but she returned broken, for although the world was saved, she had lost Seiya forever. She remained trapped in sorrow until Arya appeared before her and told her that Ishtar wished to see her. Rista went at once, and there Ishtar told her with a stern face that she had broken the laws of Brandy, and for this she would be punished. She would be sent to save an SS-class world, a world already completely destroyed. There, she would not be able to use any of her powers. Rista was shocked, but Arya quickly protested, "This mission is impossible. That world has already ended. No one can save it." Ishtar only smiled and answered, "That is exactly why we will give her the right hero." She extended her hand and offered a hero's paper. Rista held the paper, her heart pounding, and when her eyes fell on the name written upon it, she froze. It was none other than Seiya, the only hero capable of saving a hopeless world. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time, they were not tears of grief. They were tears of joy. At last, she would see him again. She thanked Ishtar from the depths of her heart and rushed away, ready to begin her new adventure, overflowing with happiness. And so, our story ends. If you enjoyed the tale, don't forget to leave a comment, a like, and subscribe. Until we meet again.